What is going on, everybody? We are back with episode 2 of Radical Math Talk, the podcast for the revolutionaries of math education. I'm your host, Sarfo-Mensah. And if this is your first time tuning in to our newest addition to the Identity Talk podcast family, we welcome you to some math talk. And we hope that you come back for more. If you are a returning listener or viewer of this podcast, we welcome you back, and we hope that today's conversation is one that you find enlightening, informative, and insightful. But before we get into the main conversation, just a reminder for folks that are on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button so you can get notifications on future episodes of both the Radical Math Talk podcast and our original podcast, Identity Talk for Educators Live. And we also are accepting donations for those who want to contribute to the growth of this podcast and overall platform. So if you're on Cash App, you can hit us up at $ID Talk for Ed. If you're on Venmo, you can hit us up at Kwame SM. Thank you kindly. And yeah, today's episode is going to be all about how we merge mathematics with hip hop culture, which is something that I am extremely passionate about. If you've watched previous episodes of the other podcasts, I talk a lot about hip hop. I grew up on hip hop. It's in my blood, and it's something that I feel could be a powerful medium for enriching math instruction and taking it to another level. So I have here a sister who is doing the work. She is more than a lyricist. She's an edutainer. She is a math advocate. She is somebody who really believes in the power of building confidence in our math learners through the medium of hip hop. So yeah, without further ado, let's bring her on. So I have Keziah Finney, who's going to talk with us about lyrical math. She's going to talk to us about just all the great work she's doing, and it's going to be a great episode. So let's get it in. Hello.
Good to be here with you.
All right, awesome. But yeah, it's just so much more to talk about. But before we get to the main things we want to discuss, I like to start off by having our guests share what we call the mathography. So in this section, we're just having people just share their math journey from the beginning all the way up to where they are now, how they've grown with math, the ups and downs, those pivotal moments, things like that. So yeah, share with us kind of how math came to your life and what your relationship with it is now.
So I would say in middle school I gained a strong interest for math. I had a teacher who let me know I was really good in math. So much so, his name's Mr. Herbert. What he did was he allowed me to help him grade papers in class. So I would finish the work early, and he would say, "Hey, come up here and help me grade these papers." And then he allowed me to calculate the student's grade. So that was the first time I understood how you get the grade average. And the fact that he put that task in my hand, it built my confidence in math. And so that pretty much is where I can remember my journey starting with math. In middle school, my mom, she also had a gift shop in Chester, Pennsylvania. And so I would work with her at the register. And I was, responsible for taking the orders for different clients. And that gave me an insight on money, which we all love. So just having that experience also increased my interest for math. Following that, I just really love math and science all through middle school and high school. I ended up going to college for undergrad for biology pre-med. My initial goal was to be a pediatrician, and that goal came about because I had a love for children and I had a love for math and science. But at a young age, I gained an understanding that teachers didn't make any money. So I thought to myself, well, how could I work with children? and still use the love of math and science. So I said I'll be a pediatrician. So then once I got to college in my third year, we had to dissect a frog, and the process freaked me out so much to the point I said, "This is not for me. Um, no, no. And like, if I can't handle this, med school is not my lane at all." So,
Mm-mm.
um, and I won't go into detail about what was so strange about it, but it was tough. It was really tough. It was beyond the dissecting process. So once that happened, we were dealing with a live frog, and then we had to, yeah. So that freaked me out. And so once that happened, I started to wrap my head around, okay, what can I do with this degree? Um, and once I got out of college, I ended up becoming a math teacher in Chester, Pennsylvania, where I was born. And once I got into it, I mean, I knew from the jump. I'm like, you know what? I always wanted to be a teacher. I knew that's what I love to do. I was just nervous about what people were always saying teachers didn't make any money. You don't want to do that. So I was like, well, I have to find another way.
Right.
But once, once I got into it, I was like, I love it. This is what I love to do. This is what I wanted to do the whole time. And I've been with it ever since. So it was really cool to jump into teaching. It came natural. I love the students that I was working with, and it's been going from there. So at this point, I'm in my 20th year of teaching.
You said 20?
Yes, year
Dang,
20.
you look, shoot, you look younger than me, man. Black
Oh,
really don't crack now.
listen, praise the Lord.
I'm telling you.
He
But
hooks us
I
up.
I see parallels in our journeys because for me, I was a math major in college, and what's funny is I was actually next door. I don't know if it's next door Philly,
Okay.
but I went to Temple
Okay.
University.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I spent a lot of time, in that area. That's like my second home.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a lot of friends who were from Chester. I had friends, who were from, other parts just outside the greater Philly area. So I know a little bit
Right.
about Chester.
Uh-huh.
Um, but what is interesting is I didn't have dreams of being a teacher growing up. Like I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to go into the NFL. I wanted to go into the NBA. But then
Right, right.
when you get to high school and you realize, at 5'10", a buck 60, chances
You
are you're not gonna make it there with those metrics. So
you have
time
a
for
probability.
different career move. Yep. Let's go a different direction with our career path. So I think for me, I spent a lot of time mentoring and
Mm,
tutoring young people. So middle school students, elementary school students, high school, all the levels. And I
right.
really enjoyed it throughout my undergrad. And then, once I graduated, like you, I was trying to figure
Mhm.
out how to best utilize this math degree because I
Okay.
wasn't one that was really into finance. I wasn't one that was really into engineering or other
Mm,
fields that you can marry with math, right?
right.
So I just thought, well, I love kids. I love
Hmm.
math. I might as well just become a math teacher.
How about
And
it?
yeah, and I wasn't even thinking about the money aspect of it. I just knew
Right.
that I had a love for the work, and that's what has kept me in it. So now I'm in year 15 overall in
Wow.
education, and yeah, I love it just as much as I did back then.
Right. That's passion. That goes to show that's what you were called to do.
Yeah, for sure. So at what point did you move from Chester to Delaware, where you are right now?
You mean move as far as like just where I ended up living or
Yeah, yeah,
teaching?
end up living. Yeah, in general.
Oh, so my family, so I'm the youngest of five. So I have four older brothers, only girl. And so when I was about 2 or 3 years old, my family initially moved from Chester, PA to Delaware. And so it was a lot of crime and things going on. My dad, he had a row home, and then he was renting out a row home in Chester. So he ended up selling both, and we moved to Delaware and Newcastle. And so we went from predominantly Black environment to being one of the only 3 Black families in a brand new neighborhood. So I mean, culture shock, and it
Yeah.
was a lot. There was a lot
Yeah.
going on to shift there. So I was here in Delaware until I want to say my second year in college. I ended up moving back to Chester for a small window of time, and then we moved back to Delaware. But the majority of my family is there, and my mom, she had a gift shop there as well. So throughout elementary and middle school, I would go to school, and then after school, I would go to Chester to help my mom run her shop. So
Ah,
that's pretty
cool.
much how the living experience looked.
All right, that's what's up. That's what's
Yep.
up. All right, so we have some context around your math journey. So now we're
Hmm.
going to move on to the second segment, which is show your work. So with
Okay.
the show your work section, it's all about those receipts. So you already have some
Got it.
receipts, being an edutainer. And I call this show your work because as math teachers, we want our students to show what they know.
Right.
Don't just
Right.
come don't just come with us with the answer now.
Right.
I
Can't
need
just
to know
say
where
it's
you got the
12.
answer from. What's your thought process? How did you get there? Because if you don't show me that evidence,
Hmm.
I'm gonna assume that you probably got the answer for somebody else. So I need
Right.
to know what you know. So now
Right.
we want you to just share those receipts because you're doing some phenomenal work in the community.
Thank you.
And I know that hip hop, specifically rap music, because hip hop we have all the elements, and we're not gonna
Yes.
get into all of them, but
We
specifically we're
could,
talking
but
about
we won't.
rapping.
Yeah.
I want to know from you, when did you fall in love with rapping, with MCing? Like, where did that come from?
Um, and I know that's a really good question because it's not common to have a female that raps, right? so so I've been an MC since I was in about 5th grade actually. And like I said earlier, I have 4 older brothers. Out of 4 of them, 3 of them rap. And so I came up in the time frame where it was like you had to write your own rhymes.
Mm,
You had to know how to freestyle. You had to know how to battle rap. You had to know how to put hooks together. 16 bars from
yes.
top to bottom had to be thorough. You couldn't fill in the blanks with uh, uh, uh-huh. Like you couldn't do a whole you could you couldn't do a whole bar of that and then and then say 2 words. So I came up in a different era. And you had to have bars, as they say now. Um, so what's interesting is my brothers, they took rapping serious from making beats to writing rhymes. We would have house parties and it was like neighborhood battles, like different crews from different neighborhoods. My mom, my dad, they would open up the basement, and I mean, it would be people down there. Today, you would imagine it would have turned into a fight. I mean, maybe once or twice it did turn into a fight, but here I was, like 10, 11 years old, um, you know, in the middle of these crowds of like high school kids
Right.
downstairs battle rapping. And I wrote raps, I had a rap. It was like my nickname was Keziah. People thought it was easier to say Keziah than say Keziah, so that was a nickname. So I had a rap like, my name is Keziah. They call me Keziah. Every time I rhyme, I take you a little higher. Like I just remember that intro. So but my brothers, they were like, and I guess that's where a lot of my confidence came from to just hit a stage, and even it helped me with teaching because they were like, yo, you gonna spit that rap, like you gonna get down there, you gonna rap. That was the only way I could join the party, is if I was willing to battle rap somebody in high school. It was crazy, so just being surrounded by music. My mom, she was in a gospel choir. My grandma was in a gospel choir. My uncle was in a gospel choir. They had gospel bands. I mean, it was serious. Like, so everywhere I went, it was just music. My cousin was a producer. A few of my other cousins rap. So for me, growing up, music was just a norm.
Mhm.
I was the only female in my family, like from cousins and on up, that rapped, but I embraced it. And so as I got to middle school, there was talent shows. I would get in those talent shows, and a couple of them I was just kind of pushed into. Like my friends just was like, "Go!" I was like, "Oh
Right.
snap!" And I think that made a huge difference because it was one thing to, rap with people that my brothers knew, or, join some type of local talent show or whatever. But like to do it in front of your peers that you literally have to see every day at school, like that was just like what. So I
Wow.
literally remember sitting in the back of an auditorium. The auditorium was packed, and so me and my friends, we came in late, and we had to sit on a table in the back. And whoever the presenter was, it was for Black History Month. He was like, "We have anybody out here that's rappers?" I think I was in eighth grade at the time, and I wasn't going to budge. I'm like, "No," And my friend literally pushed me into the aisle, so everyone's seated at this point but me in the middle of the aisle. And the guy was like, "Hey, come on to the stage." I'm like, "No, no, she didn't just do this to me. No, she didn't just do
Wow.
this to me." So I hit the stage, and it just so happened I had a Black History rap that I wrote, and the crowd like loved it. So I think that moment for me, like my peers accepted me, and me just being bold. I won't say bold enough, being pushed to have to be bold enough to hit that stage with my peers. It was a turning point for me as far as being able to just take music to another level, But I never personally wanted to be famous. Like
Hmm.
I never was the aspiring rapper. I never was like, "Yo, I'm gonna hit the charts. I'm gonna be the." I never was that person. I just like making music.
All right.
So yeah, I just like making music. I made it where I could. If it was somewhere to go and share what I was doing, I went and did it. But I never had a big goal of like, I'm going to drop this album. It's going to go platinum. I was never that person though.
Hey, that's
So,
that's what's up though. But it's funny as
yeah.
you're talking about, it reminds me of this show that I've been watching with my wife called
Mhm.
Karma's World.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
it's actually a show created by Ludacris and his daughter.
Wow.
And the main character, Karma, is an MC. She's like in third or fourth grade, and every episode she stays freestyling and rhyming about different themes and topics. It's actually pretty cool and like
Wow. I have to look
educational.
into it.
You gotta check that out. You'll probably see some
Definitely.
parallels there, for sure. Karma's World.
Okay.
Yep, on Netflix. And
Wow.
then the other part too is, see, I'm approaching my 40s, so I grew up in that era where there are a lot of, women MCs like the MC
Mhm.
Lights, Queen Latifah's, Roxanne Shantae's of the
Right.
world. So
Right.
that's like the era that I'm coming out of where, yeah, like there are a lot of dope female MCs.
Right.
And,
Right.
so it didn't feel like a foreign concept.
Mhm.
But then I
Mhm.
felt like there was like a gap. There were some gaps from that time up until now where like, you have the Meg the Stallions, the Rhapsodies, and
Right.
Cardi B's who they do their thing. But I feel
Right.
like that's evolved over time. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Um, but what's amazing about MCing and rapping, it's like teaching and MCing are very similar if you think
They
about it.
are.
Like
You're right.
you come into the classroom,
Mhm.
like Rakim says, MC, you gotta move the crowd. The crowd is your
Right.
students.
Right. Right.
The bars are your lesson plans. Those are your
Right.
bars, you know? And sometimes if the bars aren't, if the kids aren't responding to the bars in a certain way, you gotta call an audible. You gotta have a
Right.
plan B, plan C. That's
Very
improvisation.
true.
And that's an important skill that you have to have, especially when like if you're freestyling, you're off the dome. You gotta know when to go a different direction. If you're not getting a
Right.
certain response, if you're not eliciting a certain response from the student. So I feel
Right.
like a lot of those skills are very much transferable to the craft of teaching.
Very true. Yeah. Just even being able to present yourself in front of a group,
Yes.
and like regardless of what you might be thinking, like I've been in, different rap battles and things of that nature, and you can't you can't show a certain emotion in a rap battle. Like that's just not gonna happen. It'll just eat
Right.
you up. You know what I'm saying? It's
Of
just gonna
course.
eat you
Right.
up. So, same way students can just eat us up. Like if you walk in a classroom and you look like you lack confidence, or even if you look like you're not prepared, you better act like you're prepared.
Mm.
um, so it's a lot of that. I agree with you. That is parallel to teaching.
No,
Very
very,
true.
very much so. Very much
Mm.
so. And of course, I don't like I can't rap to save my life. I might give you a good 4 bar round and then that's it. Can't go no further. I might just end up being like a lot of these rappers that just use that same word for, 10 straight bars. And it's like
Right. It'll be like, that's dope, right? He like, it's not, man. That wasn't dope at all.
yeah. And listen, like, and it's not to throw shade. I'm not throwing shade at
Sure.
all. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
trap music, like auto tune, like all these things that we see now, it's part of
Yeah.
the evolution of the culture. So you
Right.
embrace it. But I know for me, I'm very passionate about, the old school, like 90s, early 2000s. Like I'm very passionate about it
Yeah.
because it felt like at that time there was more creativity, there was more innovation. I felt like the subject matter mattered a lot more back
Yes.
then compared to
Hmm.
now. Once again, no shade at current
Sure.
artists because they're pushing the culture to a different level,
For a
and
reason.
it
Yeah.
helps. But I
Yeah.
I have my preferences.
Yeah. I agree. I believe back then it was I want to say people were more intentional with what they decided to put out. Like it seemed as though there was a grandma somewhere holding them accountable for the words that came out of their mouth years ago. You get what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, you know, they might talk a little slick on the album in some fashion, but you had to drop some jewels, some words of wisdom that at least, the folks that you came from would be like, you know what? I see what you did there. At least you did that. At least you shared that good word right there or something. There had to be a message. I felt like there was more of a responsibility to give a message, and where now it seems more of I just want to get stuff off my chest. So I feel like the purpose in the microphone, using a microphone for rap, has opened up now more for just I just want to get stuff off my chest, or these are just my thoughts kind of conversation. Not to say we didn't do that years ago,
Sure.
but it's not really about how am I impacting the community when I open my mouth on this mic. You know, that's you'll hear more people now say, um, "I'm not your kid's role model." Like it's just more of a common saying with rappers, like, "I'm not responsible for raising your kids. That's your job. I say what I say. If they hear it, they hear it." Where I don't feel like we heard that as much years ago. You know what I mean? And like you said, no shade, but I just feel like
OJ.
the common perspective of what to rap about or what to share is definitely different. Yeah.
Yep, and it's gonna continue to evolve over time. Like right
Yeah.
now, where we have these phases that we're going through, and maybe 10 years from
Mhm.
now, it's gonna be something totally different,
Who
where they're
knows,
gonna
right?
compare generations to past generations. So this is always gonna happen. in hip hop.
Mhm.
That's not going
Yeah.
to change anytime soon.
Right. Yeah.
But let's talk about how hip hop as a medium can be used to elevate our pedagogy as teachers, right?
Mhm.
So in recent years, hip hop pedagogy has become more of a thing that people want to
Mhm.
learn more about. Shout
Right.
out to Dr. Chris Emden, hip hop
Mhm.
ed, what
Right.
they do, and many others who are part of that movement. So, within the context of math, I want to know from your perspective, what are the benefits of using hip hop as a medium for alleviating math anxiety? Because we know that's something that we talk about all the
Mhm.
time,
Yeah.
but also developing more confident math learners. How does hip hop help in that regard?
So hip hop, as we know, it's one of the only genres that is very centered on confidence. So
Mm,
this is a genre where I mean you can get people on the microphone that are like, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the hottest, I'm the best. I mean, it's very common, right?
sure.
Everybody is talking about how dope they are, how hot they are, how real they are, how fly they are, you know. And so hip hop promotes confidence, which I thought was really powerful to connect it to um, math. So for instance, there's a song that we have on our Lyrical Math Part 1 CD. It's called You Know Me. And it basically goes over the times tables from 2 to 6. And so when I wrote it with the ideal of hip hop and confidence. So the bars before you get to the times table is like, you know me, I'm at the top of my class. I'm so nice and precise with my math. They want to hear my threes. 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 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30, 33, 36. Stop, freeze, pause, set it off. So, just in saying that, whether you believe you're at the top of the class or not, if you say that enough, words are powerful. And speaking life is a real thing. It doesn't matter what type of ideology you come from, spiritual awakening or just belief system, you know, speaking positive is powerful. And
Yes.
so, in all of our lyrical math songs, what I've done is wrote the music to incorporate self confidence. So it's not only teaching the math concept or the math formula, but somewhere in the bars, you're going to hear, like, I'm good at this. I know how to do this. I do this very well. And so that's why I think hip hop can really help with merging with math because most of the time you don't hear people talk about social studies as much as like if someone's like, oh, how good are you with social studies? You don't hear people say, oh my gosh, I suck at social studies. Like that's just
Sure.
not my thing. Like no one really talks about social studies. But math is that content that people are like, either I excel at it or this is just not my thing. So when I get initially started making these songs, I went from, being an educator that had a background in writing raps, to having math classes and realizing my students lacked confidence and they were bored with the traditional style of teaching
Right.
that I was required to provide through the curriculum that the school gave me to implement. I decided, hey, let me just make a rap song up about what I need to teach you. And hopefully that'll get you hype. Hopefully that'll get you engaged. And then hopefully that'll help you master the skill. And it worked, so I would just continue to do that. And sometimes the students like, you, Miss Finn, you gotta rap about that. Like, like they're like, can you make a rap for this? Like, I'm introducing it. Like, can you just make a rap for it? I'm like, okay, I'll make a rap for it. And they enjoyed that strategy. So that let me know that students, they want to see something familiar, especially when you're dealing with something you don't like. If by chance math is something that you don't like, um,
Mhm.
hip hop is one of the most popular genres. I think it's so ironic how, hip hop went from this genre that's like, oh my gosh, hip hop is horrible. It's promoting all this bad stuff. When it first came out, people were trying to give it a bad name. To now, it's in households all across the world. I mean, in every socioeconomic class, you can
Exactly.
find hip hop.
Right.
It's hilarious. You have people that they don't even live those lifestyles, and they are like, what? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rapping
It's
these songs.
crazy. Right.
So
It was,
it was it's just amazing that it happened.
yeah. But I think but the biggest consumers of the culture are white folks who live in affluent neighborhoods, which is the
I
crazy part.
know. Who would have thought? I mean, just thinking that the history of hip hop
Ironic, right?
is so
Ironic.
ironic. So it just goes to show like it's a powerful genre, and many people like it because it gives them confidence. So to take a genre of music and piece it with math, thought that was a great idea. Plus repetition helps. So
Mhm.
music provides repetition. Um, Having something repeated to you over and over and over again, eventually it's going to stick. So just taking all of those elements, piecing them together for a concept that so many people are struggling to master, I just thought it was cool.
Now I want to stay on the pedagogy piece for a second because
Mhm.
this is what's coming to my mind. So you're an MC,
Mhm.
teacher, doing her thing. You're getting kids to understand the math in ways that they may not have understood it before. Now, over the course of your 20 years in this teaching game,
Uh,
have you ever received any kind of pushback from, I don't know, administrators or evaluators who are very much keen on maintaining the traditional way that we do teaching?
yeah,
Because I'm sure you're doing all these
yeah.
incredible things, and then you look at your evaluation, and it's like, hold up, how am I unsatisfactory when these kids are understanding what I'm saying? That's the goal, right? Why is it so much
Uh,
about how I'm doing it? Isn't the goal to get them to understand
to
the
understand.
concepts? Have you ever
And
had that tension?
definitely, definitely. And I've been in some schools, especially priority schools, where the state is highly monitoring the school. Most of the schools I've been in were Title I schools for the majority of my teaching experience thus far. And so some of them are, as they call, under the red, and they're being watched. And so the curriculums that they have in place, what I found is a lot of the administrators, they would tell me, when we walk in your room, we just want you to teach that. We just need you to just stick to the curriculum, because if somebody from the state walks in, we need to be able to tell them exactly what you're doing. And they need to be able to look in a book that they provided for this school and say, oh, she's doing that. So it was a lot of pressure to just check these boxes. Everybody have these boxes they want to check to say you're doing great as a teacher. And unfortunately, I'm sure you experience this as an educator. We see things in a class with our particular group of students that we have at that window of time, and we see their needs that an administrator or someone on the district level, they can't see them because you're not dealing with my particular group of students, right?
Right.
Um, and so, as educators, like you said, you got to make those impromptu decisions and know when to switch it up. Like, okay, this isn't working. I'm following the script, I'm following the curriculum that you provided, but I got like 7 kids sleep right now. So I need to kick this up a notch. I can keep going. We got like 60 minutes left, but they're bored. And
Wow.
so it's those moments where I just had to make, sometimes you just have to make those decisions. And I'm sure you've been in those places where you're like, I know you gave me this script, but I gotta go off script for my learners. This is not working, you know. And so
Exactly.
yeah, there's many times as teachers, and I just wish more teachers had the freedom. You know, they hire us to do these jobs, but I wish we had more freedom to go off script. They trusted us more to go off script, and didn't, you know, penalize us when we go off script as much. So yeah, I've definitely been in that position. Um, I've had a few different scenarios. I mean, for most part, it's been embraced, you know. Um, but I've been in a school where like I was one of say like three math teachers on a team, a grade level team, and the guy that was working next to me, he was, when I say traditional, he was like just straight to the book, quiet. I talk, you listen. I talk, you listen. And that was and here I am next door making all this noise, kids making beats, like
Right.
so I would get calls from admin. They're like, can you please reduce the noise because it's disrupting the teacher next door? Da, 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 da. So it's like, how do you try to, you know, limit what you know is effective to fit in the environment that you're required to be in? Like that challenge right there. Oh my God.
Mm. Oh, now this is getting good. This is getting really good. So check this out. So when I look at different schools or districts,
Mhm.
I look at them in the same way as record companies, record labels, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So a lot of our favorite artists over time, they have
Mhm.
stories about how they weren't getting their masters, right? They had stories about how the record company wanted them to release this single because or to sound a certain way,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I feel like there's a parallel here with teaching where you go into these different schools, these different districts, and it's like they don't want to embrace who you are authentically as
Mhm.
a facilitator,
Right.
as an instructional expert. They
Mhm.
want you to just stick to the script because that's what people are used to. That's what um, evaluators want to see.
Mhm.
That's what the teacher education programs teach pre-service candidates who are
Right.
about to enter the classroom. They want to just stick to that formula.
Mhm.
And so you decided to go independent. Start your own label, you feel me? With the lyrical math. Yeah, you and your husband, of course. Shout out to your
Right.
husband.
Right.
I know he played a
Yeah.
huge role. So let's talk about lyrical math.
Definitely.
Let's also talk about J Fin TV Studios as well as a whole.
Okay.
So, what inspired y'all to start the lyrical math program, and how exactly did the concept come about to start this?
That's a great question. So my husband James Finney, he went to Wilmington University and he majored in studio productions, digital filmmaking. That was his bachelor's degree. So he had a senior project that was coming up where he had to make a 5-minute video. And at this point in time, I was teaching math to a seventh grade group of students in Chester, Pennsylvania. And just having a conversation with him at home about what he was working on, we collaborated and decided that I would be a part of the video and I would do a lesson about adding integers. So in this 5-minute video, I was teaching. You could see me as the teacher, and I'm also the student. So two different outfits, playing two different roles. And you see a student that's bored, and then I come in as a teacher and I show them a rap for adding integers. The student gets engaged, and then they do better in the concept. So I teach the math strategy for adding integers, and I said, if the signs are the same, keep it, add that. If they're different, take the bigger one, subtract that. So that was the basis of explaining how to add integers. So in this process, once he gets the video done, he submits it for a grade for his senior project. coincidentally, I'm getting ready to teach adding integers. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm gonna show this video to my students. I said, you know what? Let me give them a pre-test to see how much they already know. Showed them the 5-minute video, gave them the post-test, and I had 3 different groups. They had my students split up by low, mid, and high achievers. And when I graded everything, the data came back with a 61.7% increase in comprehension.
Wow.
And this was before I even taught the lesson. So this was all based off of a 5-minute video. So pre-test, 5-minute video, then post-test, and 61.7% increase. So at that point, that's where lyrical math got started. We had this conversation. I'm like, oh my gosh, like these kids increase their comprehension just with this song, just through a 5-minute video. And he said, well, how many people do you want to help? And I said, as many as we can. So at this point, so at one point he said, well, and he was in school and working. So he went to go to work, like I think like the next morning, he went to go to work, and before he left, he said, you got all these math songs in your head that you made up over the years of teaching. Like every time, we're going out to supermarkets and stuff, you're running into former students. They're like, oh, I remember you taught me this song. And they still can rap the song like in a supermarket. And he said, how many of those songs do you have? And I was like, I don't know. So he was like, he said, write them out and show them to me when I get back home from work. So, okay. So I wrote out the songs. When he got home, I showed it to him. I had 9 songs. He said, all those songs been stuck in your head all this time. He said, we can write one more song. We got an album. I'm like, album?
There you go.
So I wrote one more song. And, with his background in studio production, digital filmmaking, he knew the ins and outs of, having to piece together, cover art and everything. And he did the research to figure out, okay, how can we get this printed up and have a bunch of CDs? Before you know it, we had CD. Then it was like, well, we need a student workbook. They need worksheets to go with the CD. Then, okay, we need a teacher guidebook. We need, we just started building this product. We partnered with some teachers, partnered with teachers and editors to make sure, everything was legit. I wrote everything out, had them cross-check. And then, we added a resource assessment book. Got research-based. We ended up creating a digital instructional video series. So we literally went to a studio and recorded me teaching each page of the book that we created, so that those that had the book, whether they were in a school or whether they were homeschooling, they could purchase the book and then queue in online at lyricalmathonline.com to have me literally teach them. So it just grew. Next thing you know, we had T-shirts, all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
And that was the start. Yeah, that's how it all started.
Wow, man, that's amazing. That is amazing. And now I know that you're doing a lot of pop-up math classes right now, just going to different schools, different organizations to spread this great work, right? So I'm wondering, how has that transition from being in the classroom to now traveling to different schools and organizations to do these classes help preserve your love for teaching?
So the interesting part about it is it's just reminding me of how many different learners we have out here. Typically when you're a classroom teacher, you're dealing with a certain body of students from a certain location. They have a lot of shared experiences, of course, not all of them, but, there's typically a lot of shared experiences with the students in each school. But now that we're able to pop up anywhere, and I'm able to see students from all different walks of life all the time. And it's given me a greater understanding and of who's coming to the classroom and the different approaches to math. Like you have your students that show up that's checked out for personal reasons. You have students that show up that they come from families that have a bunch of resources and they've learned so much and they have access to tutors and all these different resources that can make sure that they excel in life. You have those different learners, and so with each of them comes different personalities, different hurdles that I have to go through to ensure that I can reach them with math. So it's helped me to reach more learners and know how to assist all kinds of students. It's just broadened that opportunity. So I know we had a partnership with the Hope Center here in Newcastle, and that was developed during the pandemic. It became a homeless shelter. So for families that were homeless, displaced, yeah, they would have them. They could go to the Hope Center, and so we partnered with them to provide math services for the students that were there. And when I tell you, that was one of the most eye-opening moments, because here I am coming in to provide students with 30-minute math lessons, and their living situation is unstable.
Right.
And to see some of them just walk in, just look down, and by the end of the math class, just 30 minutes, they're up like, yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like it was awesome to know that we were able to bring a level of joy and excitement and confidence to students that are even in those situations that are displaced, you know. And so what we were doing, pop-up math class came about during the pandemic. One day I just was like, James, this is crazy. Parents are in this spot where they don't want to send their children to school physically because of the pandemic, but they also are like, I'm not qualified to teach my own child every day and monitor them on these devices every day. So these parents are in it's in a weird place because of the pandemic. So I said, James, we could pop up at parks and we could just teach them in the park. It's outside. You could spread them all out. Everybody gets 6 feet distance on a mat. And I just bring the whiteboards out with the markers and we pull up with the music. And he was like, look, draw it out. And ever since the first day we met, literally, I said vision, sketch, apply. So he's held me accountable to that. I've held him accountable to that. The concept of vision, sketch, apply. You get a vision, sketch it out, then apply it. So he was like, sketch it out. If that's your vision, sketch it out. So I sketched it out, just a little drawing of our SUV, and then he was sitting in the driver's seat, and I was standing between two whiteboards, and I showed it to him. I said, "This is what it looks like." He was like, "Yo, that could work. I see it. Okay," and we just ran with it.
Wow.
Yeah, we started popping up at County Park, and then the county executive got in contact with us, and he was like, "Look, I'm gonna give you access to all 4 county parks, and put you in contact with the people if you need bathroom access each time you arrive. We'll make sure you have that. We'll allocate the space and time for you, and we'll have someone on site to ensure everything goes as it needs to go." We were like, "What?"
Wow.
So that's how it took off, and we just started doing pop-up math classes throughout the week. So we went from having 2 30-minute classes. Sometimes the classes were so packed we had 3 30-minute classes back to back, and we had a max of, I think, 10 students. Sometimes we ended up with 15 students per class. They were all spread out within the park. The news came out. We ended up on, in the newspaper, on the front page. I mean, it was a big deal. The word spread, and it was great to know that we were able to fulfill a need that parents had. And that's what many parents were thankful for, like, this is a relief. Like, I can bring my child here. I don't have to teach my child, but there's a certified math teacher that can teach my child, and I can see what's going on. I don't have to stick my child inside of a school building in the middle of a pandemic. So, this is a relief. And so we started it in the summer, and then the demand was still there. So I went back to teaching September 2020, just back to teaching where I was. And I was teaching in the day. And then at night, as soon as I come home, I would switch out of my work clothes and put on like Papa Math class clothing, put my jeans on, sneakers on, and we hit the park. And that's what we
Wow.
did. Yeah, it was every day, back to back to back. Like, remember people are like, "Are you crazy?" I'm like, "No, I just love what I'm doing. This is I enjoy it." My husband was like, "Man, you like Batman up in this joint, like
For
going
real. And I'm like,
switching your clothes and popping back out." Um,
that's crazy. That's
yeah, so
crazy.
that's how Papa Math class went. And then once it got cold, we switched to Papa Math Zoom classes. So I was working full time and then would come home, change clothes, and he would pop the camera up and everything. And then I would teach by Zoom. We sent parents links, Papa Math Zoom parties, what we called it. And it was a party. It was a party. And so we would do Papa Math Zoom parties, and so we still do those even now. So it's a big deal. It's a big deal. I love it. I love it.
Oh man, that's what's up. That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, last question before we get to lightning round. So, what's the future of lyrical math? So, I know you all focus on, I believe, elementary grades at this point, like basic math skills, like elementary.
So we're basically third through eighth grade skills. So we start with
Through-
multiplication and division, but we go all the way up to eighth grade skills.
All right,
Yep.
cool. Is
hmm
there any plans of expanding to maybe the high school grades?
That would be
And
great. We're not shutting off that possibility at all. So, as the ideas come, as the songs come, as the need increases, I mean, we're there to, evolve into whatever's required, that we see we could help with.
yeah, that's what's up because it's something that is very much needed in the math
Mhm,
space. And
mhm,
my hope is that more schools, more districts are open to looking at math pedagogy through a different lens that's going
mhm.
to benefit learners all over.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That would be so helpful. I mean, we
Yeah.
have to at some point realize, and it should be an obvious at this point, that the traditional style of teaching is not working. We don't have the scores in the US to support that what we're doing is working. So
Right.
they should entertain something new, you know.
They should, but as the common saying goes, common sense
Mm,
isn't always common.
mm,
So this is just
yeah,
another situation where that applies, right?
definitely. Yeah, it's interesting, but it's definitely a need. So I hope, folks that have the same mindset as you and I continue to push for this shift, and people become more open minded to allow, hip hop to play its part in education.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're about to approach the hour, so let's get into the lightning round to close
Okay.
things off. So this is just a chance for people to get to know you outside of the classroom,
Okay.
outside lyrical math. So we're gonna have a little bit of fun here with these
Okay.
questions. All right. So, favorite math concept to teach or learn about?
Um,
What's your favorite?
I would say favorite math concept to teach is multiplying fractions. Definitely. Um, Mainly because a lot of time fraction seems to be a scary concept of math. You
Yeah.
know, people, I don't do fraction. That's oh no, oh no, you know. And then you should see the nervousness in the faces of the students when you talk about fractions. So I love to teach it. We have a song for multiplying fractions, and so many times when I introduce that song, the students, they jump right into it. They get hyped. They're engaged, and it just makes it easier for them to learn multiplying fractions. So it's great to see them go from I don't want to deal with fractions to please don't doubt me because I know what's happening. Turn my mixed numbers into improper fractions, and they're excited.
All right, cool. Yeah, you read my mind. I was going to ask you if you included mixed numbers and improper fractions in that unit because
Definitely.
that scares them just as much.
Just that one part, that first step. Yeah.
That's what's up. Um, Most difficult math concept to teach or learn about? Either one.
I would say statistics and probability.
Mm,
And what was interesting when I had to dive into that in my bachelor's program in undergrad, it was tough. Had a really good teacher though, but it was tough. But I loved it. That was the part about it. It was difficult, but I loved learning about statistics and probability. It's actually my favorite math concept to work on.
cool, cool. Yeah, I actually took a probability class in college that
Hmm.
I ultimately uh, withdrew from because after that midterm, I was like, ain't no way I'm gonna pass this class. And I'm not gonna leave that mark on my transcript. So let me just drop it right now while I have a chance
Right, right.
and try
And move
something else,
on.
right?
That's the
Oh,
cool part about college. Like you could be like, you know what? It's in my best interest to withdraw this one right here.
for real. That withdrawal option is powerful when you
Yes,
use
it
it the
is.
right way.
When you use it the right way.
Yes, don't overdo it now because that goes against you.
Right.
All right. All right, let's shift back to music. So let's say you're on a stranded island. You
Hmm.
have a radio, CD player, whatever, right?
Okay.
You have 3 albums with you on this island. What are going to be the titles of those 3 albums? Could be any genre.
When I think about this question, I'm not thinking about music that I would necessarily listen to every day, right? But in that predicament,
Sure.
I need some music that's going to keep my mind right.
All right.
I need some music that's going to, you know, jog my thoughts, but at the same time keep me level. So I'm going with I'm going with Sunday Service Choir.
Kanye. Or I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Yay. I'm sorry,
yeah,
Yay now.
I'm gonna go with that. Jesus is born. That's what the project was called. I'm gonna go with
Yeah.
that one. When I listen to that, it's soothing. Um, it is encouraging. I'm inspired. I feel grounded. So that would be needed if I was stranded on an island. Yes, I would go with that one. I would also go with Lauren Hill Unplugged. I would go with
Ooh,
Lauren
great
Hill
album.
Unplugged. Yes, yes.
Mm.
And I would go with Nas Illmatic.
Mm.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, those last two particular, just classic
Hmm.
albums. Classic albums
Definitely.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, shout out to I was actually watching his interview on I think it was Noriega's podcast, Drink Champs. So
Okay.
I
Yeah.
watched that whole interview the other day, and yeah, he's an interesting person. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely someone you cannot predict what's next.
But the most brilliant people tend to have that quirky mindset, so I'm not even mad at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a genius in his own right.
Yes. All right. Last question. If you can invite 3 influential figures, dead or alive, to dinner, who would they
Hmm.
be?
I'm gonna go with Madam C.J. Walker, um, because she did a lot of what she did in her time. I'm in that entrepreneur space as a Black woman, similar to
Yes.
her at this time. And if she could do that back then and become a millionaire, there's no excuse. That's how I look at it for me. There's no excuse. So I would like to have that conversation with her and just figure out her mindset, how she navigated through the obstacles and was able to persevere. What type of mindset she had to have. So that's one. Malcolm X, because he didn't mind being different at all. He stood on who he was, regardless of the opposition. Ruby Bridges, she's still alive. So
Yeah, she
I would
is.
she's one person that she lived through a certain window of time, was historical, and she's still alive. I mean, and she's alive to see the aftermath of what came, from that period of struggle with African Americans. So, just to be able to talk to her and see what she thinks at this point in time or advice she could provide, I'm sure it would be helpful. Yeah, those are my three.
Wow, powerful table right there. Powerful table. Yeah, well, Keziah, thank you so much for coming on to, chop it up with the brother. It's been a good conversation.
Yeah, I
Um,
appreciate the invite.
yes. But before you go, please let people know how they can connect with you on social media and also share the website for Lyrical Math, JFN Studios, all that good stuff.
Okay, I'm putting it in the chat box.
All
So
right,
it should
cool.
be.
All right, so yeah, y'all can check out Keziah and James and JFN Studios at popupmathclass.com. You could also
Lyricalmath.com. Yep.
lyricalmath.com as well. And then on Instagram, Lyrical Math,
Facebook.
Facebook, same thing, Lyrical Math. Are y'all on Twitter as well?
Yes. Yes.
All right, same handle.
Oh no, Twitter no. No.
All right.
I'm on Twitter as Mrs. Keziah Finney, but we don't have our lyrical math there yet.
All right, so it's
Oh,
coming.
James said yes we do. Yes we do. So we can go to Twitter as well. My apologies.
Oh, it's all good. This is why y'all
Yep,
team, right?
there it
There
is.
you go. That's what's up. But thank you so much, and continue with the dope work, and yeah, hopefully we'll connect again in the future.
Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it. Thank you so
Yeah,
much for inviting me on. Appreciate the support.
for sure. All right, you have a good rest of the day.
You too.
Thank you. Peace. All right, y'all. So we're about to end another fantastic episode of Radical Math Talk. And as I always tell y'all, I'm wishing you all good morning, good afternoon, good night, wherever you are in the world. And we're going to do this again another time. Peace out, everybody.